Hi, today I'm going to cover making the player look towards the mouse and changing the image index of a sprite based on an external event. So the first thing we're going to cover is making the player look towards the mouse. So let's create a player sprite, and I'm going to keep this simple like I like to do and just make a circle. And I'm also going to add this line because in making it rotate, it always faces this way, to the right. So this is 0 degrees, this is 90, 180, 270, and 360 is back at 0. So when we go all the way around, when we're swapping, it starts here and rotates it to the left. If we had, let's say, put the top here, so we put it so it's the green line here, it would actually make it so it doesn't look like it's facing the mouse. It would look like it's facing 90 degrees counterclockwise of the mouse. So now that we have the player, let's center. Let's create a player object. Object player. Let's grab the sprite. And actually, we should rename the sprite to sprite player. We're going to create one more sprite. And for right now, we're just going to label it sprite cursor. And we're not going to center it or anything. We're just going to click OK. In the object player, in order to get it to follow the mouse, the only thing we need to do is one simple piece of code. And that is image angle equals point direction, the x and the y of where the of the first object, the object you want to face the first dot on the grid. That dot you want to face the other dot, which is the mouse x and mouse y. So let's create a room, and let's just put the object player in it. And what should happen now is the object player should follow the mouse. And it does. Now we can't see the mouse because I did turn off display the cursor, but I'll turn that back on. Let me restart it. And you can see that it's following the cursor. But we're going to go right here, and we're just going to remove the cursor, and I'm going to show you how to make a object cursor so you can customize your cursors. And let's double click edit sprite, and we're just going to make a basic cursor. I'm going to drag it from here to there. And we have our object cursor. The only thing I'm actually going to change is I'm going to completely make it green. It could be black too. I just made it green. It's bright. We're still going to leave it at 0 and 0, and this is because, let's turn this back on for when we do run. We're going to keep the other cursor still on for now. We're going to create an object called object cursor, and we're going to set it to the sprite cursor. And in the step event, we're just going to set it equal to the x position equals mouse x, the y position equals mouse y. So now every step is going to reset the location of this object to the location of the mouse. And we have the mouse on just to show you that it is following it, so you can get a visual very quickly. And actually, I never put it inside the room. So now that the object is actually inside the room, it should work. And there we go. You see the two different sprites for the cursor. We have the default and then the one we made. So now let's go here and turn off the display of the cursor. And let's see how that looks. And there we go. It's following it. So that's how you make the player face the cursor. The next thing we're going to want to do is I'm just going to come into the sprite player and I'm going to add some sprites. So I'm going to copy, paste, 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 and for the first run I'm going to change its color to blue, the second to pink, and the third to yellow. Well, the third changed to yellow, the fourth sprite. So now what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to come into the object player, and in the create event, we're going to want to drag in a piece of code and just write in that its image speed equals 0. Now, image speed controls how fast the image rotates between all the images in its image index. So, how fast it goes through these. If image speed equals 1, then it'll do it on a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm sorry about that noise. It'll do it on a 1-to-1 ratio with the room speed, which is 30 steps. So what's going on is, if it was a 1, then it would cycle through that every 1/30th of a second, because the room speed is 30 steps per second. If I set it to 60 steps per second, then it would cycle through those images if I had image speed at 1, which is the default, at every 1/60th of a second, it would be changing the image. But by setting image speed to 0, it's not going to change the image at all. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a count change equals 0 and sprite change equals false. And the reason we're creating a sprite change equals false is in the object cursor, what we're just going to want to do, and it doesn't have to be here, I'm putting it here. We could use classes. There's a bunch of different ways we could do this. But since I wanted to show you how you would activate it from a different instance, I'm going to put it inside of the object cursor. So if, and what we first need to do is create a left click equals mouse button pressed, no, mouse check button pressed, and we're just going to check it if it's the mouse button left. So if that's true, so if we have pressed the left mouse button, then we're going to set this in change sprite change equals true. Now this by itself wouldn't work because it would look for a sprite change in itself because we didn't use dot notation to specify where we're looking, what we're looking for. So let's do object player, or where to find it rather. Object player dot sprite change equals true. So now when we left click, this is going to turn true. So let's close out of object cursor. Let's go into the step event of the object player. So if that's true, if sprite change, and because it's either true or false, we don't need to write equals false. It's already either true or false. If it was a number, what we could do is if it's equal to the number 0 or if it's greater than 0. But since it's already true or false, we can just write if sprite change. So if it's false, it won't run this because it's the if statements work like this. It says if this is true, whatever this statement is, then do stuff inside of me. That sounded so fucked up. Oh, I may have to do the whole video over again. I'm leaving it in. I might edit it out. I don't know. But inside the if statement, if this is true, then do things inside of the if statement. Oh my god. I'm gonna need a minute to quietly contemplate my life. So if it's true, we want to change the count plus equals 1. And I'm going to actually change this to, well, I'll keep it at 1 for now, and I'll show you how it would work after. But we actually only want to change that if count change is less than 5, because we have 4 sprites. So if it's 0 through 4, and actually we have 3, up to 3, because it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So if it's less than 4, then count change plus equals 1. And then what we want to do is actually write this correctly. So if the change goes up, we want, or if it's less than 4, we want to put that there. Else, if it's greater than 4, we want to reset count change equals 0, sprite change equals false. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make a switch statement for count change. So whatever this is, whatever this equates to, that's what we're going to set the image index equal to. But because it's a switch statement, we need to make the cases. Case 0 equals image index equals count change. So this is going to give it a number between 1 and 3. Or no, between 0 and 3. If it's 0, it'll load the first image. If it's 2, it'll load the 1. Or if it's 1, it'll load the 1 image. If it's 2, it'll load the second image. If it's 3, the third. And then if it hits the, when that turns to 4, it'll change back to 0. So the next time we press our mouse button, it'll change again. So because we're just doing this, I'm just going to copy and paste this a couple of times. Four times. Case 1, 2, 3. And we're all set except for breaks. So we should actually be all set now, so that when we press the mouse button, it should change the sprite player to the 4 other images very quickly, because it is happening. It's changing every 1/30th of a second. So you can see it changes it. Now I'm going to show you how you can actually make it take longer to change. What we would do is we'd come here and we'd say, okay, well, what's the first time we want it? Well, we want it to be 0 the first time. If it's 0, we want it to set it to the first image. This way we can make it sure that it's always on the first image when it's restarting. Let's change this up to 6 though. 6, and then we just double it, 12, and then 12 plus 6. We're actually adding 6 each time, so, but 6 times 2 is 12, but that's why this one's 18. It's not really doubling each time, it's adding 6 each time. I shouldn't have said double 6. And then what we're going to want to do, because now this is out of whack, we're going to want to take case 18 and if less than 19. So that way it'll get to the 18, it'll load this image, but it won't do it for as long either. So you might want to add another 6 seconds so that changes. So 18, it would be 24, and we'd want to make it 25. In this way, this one would last for the same amount of time as the others. Because you add 6 and then you add 1 because it's less than that. Alternatively, we could do less than or equal to and put it to 24. So now once it gets to 25, it'll reset to count change equals 0, and it'll start all over again. Except now it's going to take 6/30ths of a second. It's going to take 6 steps to change each time. And then it'll hold the value. It'll keep the image index there until it's told to change it. Okay, so, and we have an issue. It's going, let's see, image index equals 0, plus equals 1, count change, sprite change equals false. And in our create event, what do we have? Count change equals 0, false. So if it's true, change is less than 25. Oh, this is what's going on. Because we left this at count change. When we were doing 1-to-1, this is fine. But now that we're not, we can't have this anymore. We need to do 0, 1, 2, and 3. So every time it was loading one that wasn't equal to it, that's why it was messing up. So now let's save and play. And it's working. So every time I click, it just changes. And even while it's changing, it still follows the mouse. So that's how you would make the sprite change based off an action. And this is cool because this is showing you how you can create an animation based off a click. Let's say I had this, so when I clicked it, and then instead of just changing colors, what if it, like, I don't know, floated or turned into something else, or maybe it's a chest and it opened when I clicked it. It's showing you how you would change sprites to form an animation of sorts by counting the steps and setting it based off that. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good one.